Hello, everyone. If you haven't met me before, I'm Bill Price, and I'm in the University of Pittsburgh Department of Linguistics ESL unit. And I want to share with you today something that I've been working with, trying to incorporate generative AI into a writing course in a responsible way. So we're facing a lot of the same challenges with generative AI right now, all kinds of questions about academic integrity. What does an authentic workflow even look like these days? Are students able to engage deeply with material, or are they kind of putting their brains on autopilot to the extent that a tool will allow them to do that? These are questions that have been keeping me up at night, and I'm sure they've been keeping you up at night as well, especially because now at the University of Pittsburgh we have the Generative AI at Pitt initiative, where students are being provided with institutionally endorsed generative AI tools, which really means it's time for us to decide, what are we going to do with this reality, with this situation. I think that one approach that could be helpful is trying to throw away this idea of the generative AI tool as being, in some sense, an author, with that idea of it generating kind of a work product text, something that's a source of truth, all of that. That's really, especially at the student level, something we want to avoid. So I had a bit of a brainstorm. What if we try thinking of it as a recommender engine, where it's not a source of truth by itself, but it's just a way to help you discover good sources of truth, something that will spark exploration instead of replacing it, instead of just being a shortcut, something that can maybe even nudge students toward better and more mature research habits. These junior colleagues of ours, how can we scaffold them up to this more mature kind of mindset of how to engage with literature? And so we see this all the time, especially in writing-focused curricula, that students just don't know what they don't know about a topic. They often start with a very narrow view of a topic, and this can lead to research questions and arguments that are quite safe, quite siloed, not very original or exciting. And especially in that kind of tender spot as students are entering grad school, this can be really challenging to make this kind of conceptual leap, that they're now engaging in a dialectical way with the literature, that they are contributing and not just reporting on what others have thought. So here's the assignment that I've been piloting. So basic overview is the students use an AI tool in a very narrow and structured way, really just one prompt that they send. And the AI's only job is to help sketch a map of related fields and terms related to the topic that the student is interested in. So the student in this context is still an explorer, but they have a map to help them find interesting things that they may not have been on their radar at all. So I'm not going to read this word for word, but this is the prompt that is sent to the AI tool. When I say AI tool, I do mean like a large language model in the ChatGPT tradition at Pitt. That could mean Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini. Those are the institutionally endorsed large language model tools. So it says basically, I want to research, and then whatever the topic is, the student has to fill that in. So it could be something like the impact of AI on employment. And then it tells the AI, you will help me map the literature. So give me a list of fields, a list of disciplines and subfields. Give me their contributions related to the topic. Tell me about their concerns. And here's the critical part. Include a list of suggested search queries I can use to find relevant scholarly sources in a university library catalog. So this is really trying to break any association the student is making with thinking that the AI is something that they can just cite as a source of truth, right? We want to engage with the actual literature. We want to use those library search tools. We want to, get our hands into the actual journal articles and peer-reviewed literature. So this is a way to scaffold us in that direction. So here's an example of what the output can look like. This is actually just an excerpt. There was about twice as much material generated as this, but we can see here, this is output from Gemini 2.5 Flash, which, as of when I'm recording this, September 2025, is one of the models available through Generative AI at Pitt. And you can see some of these fields here. There's economics, sociology, political science and public policy, organizational behavior and management. And it gives, these top-level overviews. Again, we're not thinking of these as sources of truth. At best, we're thinking of this as a tertiary source not primary or secondary. But then, here's our key to get into the actual literature, these list of suggested search queries. So part of this assignment involves the student then choosing a perspective, choosing a search query that looks interesting to them, especially something that is surprising to them, and going and finding some articles that are from that perspective, using the suggested search query for assistance. So here are some excerpts from student responses, because I do this as a discussion board activity, right? They're going to report back on what they've done, what they've searched for. So one student said, "This surprised me because I only thought about efficiency. I didn't think about labor or economics being affected." I believe that student did a very similar topic to the one I just showed as an example. I think it was about AI and programming. So they were thinking about how can we make programming more efficient, and they weren't thinking about the whole labor aspect of it. So that surprised them, and they found some new perspectives. Another student, "This map broadens the idea of this topic. There's no just one correct answer for the issues we care about." Lovely, right? "This goes beyond my prior knowledge zone and captures my eye." Kind of poetic there. But I was seeing some genuine excitement and real metacognitive engagement from some of these students. And I mean, of course, there's some that just type the bare minimum, that always happens. But I was really pleased with the level of engagement that a lot of my students have given this kind of activity and the kind of excitement that they were showing, because, they had some intrinsic motivation. They were picking a topic that they were excited about, that they really wanted to look into more. And this was helping them do that, right? It's kind of casting a light in the darkness. It's not the final truth by itself, but it's giving them some ideas for directions that they can explore in, and what sources of truth they can incorporate into whatever final product they may produce out of that spark of an idea. So this format, I hope, is a way to use AI to spark curiosity and not to replace it or kill it. I think it puts a focus back on metacognition and on discovery, where the student is very much in the proverbial driver's seat, and this is just a tool to help them find the way that they want to go. I've put this and other AI experiments on a public GitHub repository. The easiest way to get there is through the domain that's my name, billcprice.com, and feel free to use, borrow, remix any of these ideas. I just like sharing what I'm working on, sharing the ideas that spark that fun. So thank you very much.